Hey there guys, I am SonicGhost and welcome back to some more Let's Play Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. Last time, we used our newly acquired Goron mask to help out the Goron people as much as we can for right now, and we learned ourselves the Goron Lullaby. With this, we are ready to go ahead and make our way over to Snowhead, along with our biggest bomb bag upgrade, and a new sword, the Razor Sword. But before we head up to Snowhead, there are a couple different things I want to go ahead and mention here. So, first things first is how we get the Goron mask from Darmani. For starters, making your way over to the Goron Shrine to get your Lens of Truth, there's an interesting note about those invisible platforms, as every single day here, those platforms do change their location. So, day 1, day 2, and day 3 do have different sets of platforms for you to jump around on in order to get over to the Lens of Truth, and the owl will be showing you each day a new path, so keep this in mind. And this will affect your return trip as well, getting back to Goron Village. Speaking of which, on your return trip back, you would think you would need to talk to the Ghost of Darmani to activate his little quest so you can follow him up to his grave and then be able to play him the Song of Healing. Well, in fact, this is not the case. You can completely ignore Darmani here and just go straight over to where you need to go in order for you to get your mask. Either use Song of Soaring, or you can just run over to his grave, and you can just easily make your way back over there and talk to Darmani. One thing to note though about that slope there is that the slope we just climbed, you're only supposed to be able to go up it as a Goron using the Goron rolling ability. But if you use bomb sliding, a glitch we showed earlier on in this series, you can slide up that slope in the same way, as the game won't have a chance to put Link in his sliding down animation to force him back down on ground level. But back here in Mountain Village, there's one thing I want to go ahead and show off, which is why we're just showing this whole sequence of going to where Darmani is, even though we don't have his ghost. When you're climbing up the wall here, this does use a lot of magic. So to conserve your magic, you can go ahead and spam the button that the Lens of Truth is on to save a lot of that magic in the game. As when you spam the button, you're turning on and off the Lens of Truth, but you're barely using any magic while doing so. This can be a killer on your fingers after a while, and it can get a little grating on the ear just hearing the Lens of Truth sound effect go on and off constantly. But this is another thing you can do to make things a little bit easier if you don't have that much magic climbing up this wall. Although, keep in mind, right next to the owl statue in this area, one of the snowballs does have a full pot of magic that you can get at this point with half magic that will just fill you up to max. So you can get a pot of magic there and refill your magic. A thing to note though is you do need the Lens of Truth in order to heal Darmani. You don't need to talk to him, but you do need to activate the Lens of Truth to see the ghost. Then you can play the Song of Healing. If you try to pull out your ocarina to play the Song of Healing too early, then the Song of Healing won't work to heal Darmani. You do need the Lens of Truth in order to do this. Even if you know the path to get up here and brute force your way over to where Darmani's grave is without the Lens of Truth, you will not be able to play him the song, hence you will not be able to get the Goron mask. That's another way you can get the mask. You don't need to follow the ghost, as mentioned earlier. You can just beeline your way over here and get the mask early. And it saves you a bunch of the cutscene time and running around too, especially again, if you already hit that owl statue and you warp over here with the Song of Soaring. Another thing to mention is the Goron Elder. The Goron Elder is very special here because he acts differently between the different versions of the game. Here in the N64 version, the Goron Elder is always going to be encapsulated in a snowball as we've seen, but he moves around depending on the day. Day 1, he's closer to Goron Village, while day 2, he's closer to the Mountain Village area instead. Once again, still encapsulated in a snowball that you need to break open with bombs or the Goron Punch, and also you still need to unfreeze the guy using hot spring water. On day 3, the Goron Elder will be very close to Snowhead here at the edge of Mountain Village. So each day, this guy does move around trying to get closer and closer to Snowhead, as his mission is to go to Snowhead and try to stop this blizzard to save his people. In the 3DS version, on the other hand, this guy acts entirely different. In fact, in such a way that in the 3DS version, he is very hard to miss. On day 1 and day 2, the Goron Elder is just in a block of ice here, near both Mountain Village and the Goron Village, so he's closer to Tingle in this version, and he's always just going to be encapsulated in ice, but not a snowball here. So in day 1 and day 2, he's always going to be in the same location, making it very easy for you to find him. On day 3, he's still in the same location, but now they put him in a snowball, just like they do in the N64 version. This is the only real time he could be a little easier to miss in this version, but the snowball is bigger than the others, and you still get the same text from Tattle in this version telling you something suspicious about the snowball to give you a hint that there's something else inside of here that you do need to interact with. Very strange how they changed how the Goron Elder thing works in this version, but in a lot of ways it does make it easier on the player to find this guy so they can proceed with the main story. But now with those little differences between playthroughs out of the way, we are ready to make our way up to Snowhead itself. And if we check the sign here, this confirms this is a way up to Snowhead. So let's go ahead and put on the Goron mask and roll our way up this mountainside. So, we could have tried going to this area before, but you're going to notice a big issue here. Warning! Closed to the general public and those who cannot perform the Goron jump. Well, I also want to freeze this thing, because this is a keys! Not a bad bat, a keys. Specifically, it's an ice keys, but we put out its ice. This is a very weird distinction between these stupid bats. Why are the ones encapsulated in things like ice called keys, but then a normal looking bat that's supposed to be a keys called a bad bat? It's so inconsistent. Like a weird translation issue in the game, and I don't understand why they did this. It's very weird. But we do need the Goron jump to make our way across here to actually get the Snowhead. So if we didn't have the Goron ability, there is no way we'd be getting over here. I'm dropping a bomb in between these little snowballs because here is a hidden grotto. Inside this grotto, we got ourselves some Deku Bombas here, which I'm going to be ignoring because I don't really need to kill them. And we got ourselves 20 rupees. Very nice. Now, I could be attacking these enemies to try to get supplies for them if I need them, because I am full up on Deku Sticks and Deku Nuts. But as we got the Razor Sword at the end of last episode, we were told one very crucial thing about the sword. We want to be very careful how we use the Razor Sword here in the game. While it may be stronger than the Kokiri Sword, doing about double the damage, we can only use it 100 times before it reverts back to the Kokiri Sword. And these 100 hits the game does not track. You have to keep count of this yourself. So when you're attacking enemies, or you're hitting objects, owl statues, breaking open containers, you name it, if you hit anything at all 100 times with this Razor Sword, then it will break, reverting itself back down to the Kokiri Sword. Then you must go back to the mountain smithy, pay them another 100 rupees to reforge your sword back into the Razor Sword, which wastes another day cycle here in the game. Another thing to note about the Razor Sword is that this sword upgrade, because it can revert back to the Kokiri Sword, means this is not a permanent upgrade to your inventory. So if you play the Song of Time, going back to Dawn of the First Day, you will not keep the Razor Sword. It will revert back to the Kokiri Sword, as it will think that you've used it 100 times and now it has lost its durability. So the Razor Sword isn't the best sword in the game for obvious reasons. We definitely want to try to upgrade this again later, but these are things we need to note using the Razor Sword, as we do have it for now, and I do want to show how this sword works in this playthrough. This way to Snowhead Temple. Please contact the Goron Elder if you have any information on the whereabouts of this temple's guard. The guard's missing, you say? Well, that's not good. Let's see if we can find this guard ourselves, because there may not be any other way to get into Snowhead if the guard isn't around. Here we are, we're at Snowhead. It looks a little menacing, and also looks a little bit impossible to get to, because if we can see up, I don't know what the heck's going on with my camera here, we can see in this area that there's a blizzard just blowing around. And it looks like the winds are very harsh. Won't be able to really walk further than here. What's that? There's something in the middle of that blizzard. Can't you see it? Not really. I don't know what you're seeing there, Tattle, but if we equip the Lens of Truth, now I see what you're talking about. There's the guard. He's just sitting on top of the mountain, but somehow he's invisible. Don't ask how that one works. If you try to make your way over to Snowhead right now, you're going to have a very hard time, because you're just going to get pushed off the mountain just like so. There's no way you're going to be making it over here So, to make things easier, let's try to put the guy to sleep. We learned the Goron Lullaby for a reason, and this is the reason. Playing the Goron Lullaby here is gonna put this big guy to sleep and stopping the blizzard. Think we may just killed that giant Goron. I really hope he didn't land on a spike pit down there, because that would be horrifying. Sorry, didn't know you're gonna fall like a rock. Here we got ourselves an owl statue, and I'm going to use a spin attack to activate it, because hitting it with the magic power of the spin attack isn't gonna hit the sword itself. So right there, that was a free swing. You want to be very careful, as mentioned earlier with the razor sword. There are ways around using the razor sword without breaking it that fast, and that's one of those methods. So I'm going to take very, very much advantage of that. It's going to be a huge deal using spin attacks going forward in this area. We want to go ahead and make our way up this mountainside here, trying to be very careful not to fall off. Hit this ramp and make our way inside Snowhead Temple. Here we are, second dungeon in the game. Go ahead and break open this ice so we can get to this giant boulder. What are those things? This is kind of big. It's gonna take more than average strength to move this thing. Yeah, actually now on closer inspection, it's a giant block. What are these? This is a white bow. We already seen the black bow variant. These are the white ones, which are found in snowy areas. But there are a lot of them, so let's just punch them away. Get out of here. I won't be dealing with you little suckers. You're like little ants. Get out of here. So, as a Goron, we can go ahead and press this block all the way back with our strength. And there you go. Now we're into this room, and I'm not going to fight that wolf host because there's no point. Here we got ourselves a very interesting predicament. So you see that fairy there? If you try to shoot it, you're not going to hit it because that's an invisible wall. So we got to go on the other side. Well, what does Tata want? At slippery places like this, you can curl up as a Goron and roll your way across. Why don't you try it? I was thinking that, Tata. You have to give me a second to think here. Let's go ahead and charge up our roll here as a Goron. Get frozen in the process. Thanks, buddy. As you see, you gotta time this just right, because if you don't time it right, well, these ice guys are just gonna freeze you solid. So I'm gonna wait here a second. Now the guy's gonna spit out his icy breath. Now I can go ahead and make my way across. So be a little patient in this section, as if you're a little too reckless here, it's gonna cause some issues. So I'm gonna go ahead and equip myself a bow and get the Great Fairy Mask, because down here we can see a fairy trapped in a bubble. So there's another fairy in this area. That's gonna be our first one. I'm gonna go ahead and equip the lens, and as we can see here, that fake wall, it doesn't cover this whole stalactite, so we can go ahead and hit it from the other side, popping the little bubble, and ourselves another stray fairy. So there you go. Let's go ahead and make our way up this staircase here, going up a floor in the dungeon, and right here's another stray fairy. That was easy. Gonna go ahead and open up this treasure chest here. As we can tell, it is important because of the gold trimming. This is gonna help very early to have. It's the dungeon map. We already know the description, so we're not gonna be reading it. We've already gotten one of these. If it's any repeat item, we're not gonna be reading the description again, because that's just a waste of everybody's time, including my own. This place is big. Like, really big. In terms of size, I feel like this is the biggest dungeon in the game, simply in terms of the floor count. This place has a lot of layers. So, yeah, prepare to be climbing a lot in this dungeon. This is more of a vertical dungeon in the game. I don't want to fall down there, because that would not be great. I want to enter this room here and pull these blocks back, because behind these blocks is a treasure chest we want. So in here, we get ourselves a small key. Definitely need that key, because without it, we won't be able to progress any further, obviously. But before we leave this room, because there's not much else we can really do here, I want to go ahead and push these blocks all the way over to the other side of the room, as there is a little lip over here at the very far edge of the room where something could fit inside of it. Something like a pair of blocks. We want to go ahead and push these all the way across this room, which will activate somewhat of a switch, and it spawns this treasure chest. Now remember this for later because we can't actually get to that chest just yet. It's out of reach. We can't climb these blocks from here. We can only grab them, so remember that chest for later. The blocks luckily will stay, so we don't have to worry about those leaving us anytime soon. Let's go ahead and jump down here, because as we see, we get ourselves a giant switch. But if we try to step here, one, we take damage because of lava. Humans don't like lava, it's kind of expected. And two, the switch is doing nothing for us because we're not heavy enough. So let's put on a couple extra pounds here as a Goron, which is heavy enough to push down the switch. Doing so causes a chest to spawn. Now this thing that was hurting us, right here, this is a red bubble. If it comes at you, get in defensive position to bounce it back. That's very important to note because if you can bounce these things back, their fire gets put out. It's not the easiest thing to do, and as soon as they go back inside the lava, they catch back on fire, so I don't recommend fighting these guys. If you do try to fight them, use a projectile like your bow. It'll just make things a lot easier. So there you go. Doing all that here, hitting the switch, opening the chest, gives you a stray fairy. That's pretty much the reason why we went down there. It's just for that fairy. So now we're going to want to go ahead and make our way back up to the first floor here, because down below, that's technically the basement. And we want to go ahead and shoot an arrow through a fire to burn this ice. That way, we have a shortcut back to the entry point here of the dungeon. Now with our key, let's make our way into this room here. And now we can progress. Got ourselves another gold trimmed chest here. So it's yet another important chest. Since we get a cutscene, it's not a small key. In fact, this is the compass. We know what this does, so now we can go ahead and see treasure chests in the area, which is very helpful. I'm gonna go ahead and equip myself some bombs, pull this out, get ready to throw them, break open the box up above, which will spawn a fairy, and I'm gonna go ahead and equip my great fairy mask so it comes towards me. And also let's blow up this wall because as you've seen it was cracked. Blowing a cracked wall reveals the staircase, and there's our fifth fairy. A lot going on at once here. This room looks dangerous. Wonder what Tano has to say about this. What? It's an icicle. It's just like the one we saw outside. Outside as in outside of Snowhead? Or like outside the dungeon? Because I didn't see one of these outside of the Snowhead dungeon. But we already know what to do with these. In order to get in the Snowhead, we had to use one of these icicles. So shooting it twice with an arrow will cause icicles to fall from the ceiling. And in our case, this is good because it reveals a path. So here, I'm just wanting to go ahead and break open a very specific amount. This way trimming here kind of tells you that's an invisible wall. So if you didn't have magic, there is a tell. Inside this chest is a stray fairy. So that's nice. Go jump over here. I'm gonna go ahead and equip myself a bomb. Pull it out. And while that's blowing up, I'm gonna re-equip the Lens of Truth because I want that for the next room. Inside this chest is a small key. How convenient, because there's a locked door lily right next to us. If that key wasn't here, we wouldn't be able to go that much further, so that's very convenient. Here I'm gonna go ahead and look up. As we can see here, on the Lens of Truth, that's a fake ceiling. Shooting inside the fake ceiling will reveal ourselves a straight fairy, and just wait for it to come towards me. There you go, straight fairy number 7. Gonna go ahead here and equip myself the Goron mask, because I feel like we're gonna need it here in a minute. What? Do you think you could push down something this big just by standing on top of it? You're gonna have to find some way to pound it down. Well, luckily for you, I have a way to pound down a ground as a Goron with the Goron pound. Doing so will raise up 2 more of these yellow cylinder platforms, but one of them is blocking our way out of the room, which does suck. So we can't really just walk over here because, as you can see, there's an icicle, so we needed to hit the yellow cylinder there. But we don't have to worry about that because hitting this green cylinder activates another platform for us to use. So here, I'm going to go ahead and re-equip my Goron mask. Real really shouldn't have took it off, but I just did that for safety reasons. I didn't want to walk off an edge and waste a lot of time here. Because this little platform is on a timer. We can hear it ticking down. And the faster it ticks, the less time you have. So I want to go fast there. There we go. We made it out of that section. Now here, I'm going to go ahead and use my Goron roll to make it across this area. Being very careful here not to fall. Going at lightning speed. And I barely fell down her. Are you serious? I almost made that whole thing with spikes. That would have been very impressive. But no, you had to fall off at the very last second there, Goron Lake. How dare you? Here, I'm going to go ahead and line myself up because I don't want to fall. This is going to be a long climb back up if I fall back down right now. Jump across this section here with spikes. And let's go ahead and take off our mask and enter this door. Behind this door is our mini-boss here of Snowhead Temple. This guy's fancy. He does a little dance and everything. This here is a Wizrobe. You'll get your chance right when it starts to attack. Be on the lookout for it. So, just like Title said, we can only attack this guy when he's ready to attack us. So, knowing this, we want to go ahead and wait around, but don't wait too long, because he's going to attack us with a very, very hard to avoid and deadly attack. So you want to be careful here. We want to go ahead and look around the room because we see clones, which means he is going to do some... Okay, that was bad. I told you that was hard to avoid because it's an AoE attack. It hits a lot of the surface there on the ground. We can see clones here. Only one's the real one. You can easily see which one's the real one by looking at your mini-map here because the red dot is the weird Wizrobe. He shoots you with an ice ball, which covers a huge section of the floor, and you want to be very careful about that. One thing to note about that little trick I just mentioned is that in the N64 version, you can check your minimap where the Wizrobe is. They removed that little dot for some reason in the 3DS version, and I don't know why. It makes the fight so much harder for no good reason. Not a fan of that change. You know what I am a fan of, though? This chest here. Inside this chest is the item of this dungeon. Inside is the fire arrows. Set the C to power up your arrows. Things will heat up when they hit. Definitely, because now we have a source of fire with us at all times. And now with this new fire arrow, we're going to go ahead and explore the rest of Snowhead in the next episode. Next time on Let's Play Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, we'll use our newly acquired fire arrows and continue making our way through this dungeon. I'll see you guys next time.